Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. Good evening. Ooh, wow, that sounds like a robot. Welcome to another episode of DroppedMic. While we work on fixing the sound, tonight's episode is titled Move In or Move Out, which basically mean, sorry guys, there's a lot of static, which basically means when is the right time to move out of your parents' home. I know in our culture, the Haitian culture, I should say, you know, they typically say, as long as you stay with your parents, you're not an adult. It doesn't matter your age. And even society puts this pressure on people like, oh, you're 26, you still live with your parents. 30, you still live with your parents. You know, so tonight, our panelists will give us their opinions. They share some experiences and there's some questions regarding this topic. Welcome to DroppedMic. My name is Ted. Welcome everybody, welcome back. And so tonight, among our panelists is one of our producers. ND and GV are usually behind the camera. A couple episodes ago, we had the privilege of having GV on the panel. Tonight we have ND. So ND, welcome to DroppedMic. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, and whatever you feel like sharing with us.
Hello, everybody. Hello. My name is Andy, and first of all, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Drop Mic, of course. As said, I am one of the producers of the show, and I'm always behind the camera. And to be honest
Mm-hmm.
with you, I miss it, but I'm also excited because I get to share this moment with you guys. So I live in Dallas, Texas, and my 9 to 5 job, I'm a software engineer, but I also have some business on the side. Yeah, so I'm a photographer, also have a store online, and we do all other stuff. And myself and Ted, we we have a lot of I can say business together. So well, I'm excited to be here. This is an interesting topic, and I have some awesome topics with me as well. So I'm excited. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. And next we have Milka.
Hey guys, my name is Milka and I live in California, the best state, not up for discussion. Currently, I am an ICU nurse, but I am working on my master's degree to be a holistic nurse practitioner. So I am putting an emphasis on nutrition because, I really do believe in the practice of holistic health. So, yeah.
It's awesome, awesome. And last but not least, we have Jess.
Hi everyone, my name is Jess. I live in Rhode Island. I currently work in higher education, so on the administrative side, not necessarily academic. Um, I'm really excited to discuss the topic today. I feel like I have a lot to share, so thank you for having me.
Thank you, and welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this panel of Drop Mic. And welcome to our audience. So, without any further delay, guys. So, when is the right time to move out of your parents' home, right? So, we typically hear parents say, once you turn 18, you got to move out. You got to find your own place. You're an adult. Do your own thing. Do you guys think this is reasonable, or is it an okay practice? I want to hear from everybody. I'll start with you, Andy.
Well, that's in our culture. Well,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, guys, Haitian, I'm from Haiti. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about that 18 years old thing until I moved to America. So, in my culture, there is uh, there is not an age limit per se, but in the American culture,
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, and
Yeah.
there can be positive from it and also negative. I
Mm.
truly believe that when the kids move out at such an early age, that
Mm-hmm.
will, put them on the front line. So they start dealing with bills and responsibility. And
Mm-hmm.
that will teach the kid or the, young adult a lot about life. I can say things that they wouldn't learn if they were still under their parents' responsibility. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a positive. At the same time, uh, the good question is, you know, are they ready to move out? Because
Mm.
as you go through life and you face responsibility, you must be, somehow mature, and you must know how to deal with certain things like handle your finance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not ready, they will learn the hard way. So and learning the hard way, sometimes the kid or the young adult they never bounce back from. So I think it's not. I don't think there is a yes or no answer or a specific age I can say to that, but I will say it depends on the person.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. Mirko, what do you think? You think it's reasonable?
Um, I don't think that there's necessarily, like you said, an age for someone to move out, but I do believe is
Hmm.
it definitely a state of mind and definitely where you are financially. So for
Okay.
me, I think when Haitian parents are like, "Well, you're not an adult until you move out," I think that's just a bit egotistic, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, I'm an adult. Come on. But with the whole moving out thing, I think a lot of time kids want to move out for the same reason, because it's more of an ego. I don't want to be here. I want to be in
Yeah.
my own house. I want to be my own adult, make my own rules. And it's like,
Hmm.
but then you leave and then you take up all these bills. You get into all this type of debt. You're not financially stable. Like, was
Yeah.
it really a smart decision for you to make? So, my thing is that where are you in life and what is the purpose of you moving out? Is it going to benefit you or is it actually going to make you struggle? Because I do hear the whole like, you grow through your struggle, but if you don't gotta
Hmm.
go through some struggle, there's really no reason for you to go through it.
That's right. That's right.
But also to add on that, but there are some kind of dynamic with relationship with parents that it is kind of hard to live with them when you are trying to grow because it's not really a Haitian parent because been a child in the house. So, but for
Hmm.
you, you no longer see yourself as a child, but your parents will always see you as that child. So it's like sometimes in order to fix that dynamic, you do kind of need to create distance, but then that's where, some kids they go into college and they come back home. I think that also can help fix that adult child dynamic in the home. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And what about you, Jess? What do you think?
I don't think that's realistic. I feel like, especially in the states, and how I think that kids are not, at 18, you're not really set up to be successful in multiple areas. I think financially, that's a big issue, but also maturity wise, I think that it obviously depends on your situation. I am one person that I left my parents, my dad's, when I was 19. I went to college and never went back. And I
Hmm.
think that based on the settings that I was in, so that was something that was possible for me. But I don't
Yeah.
think that that's realistic for everyone. I would agree with Milka regarding like the state of mind piece. I feel like when you're growing as a human, I think sometimes it's hard to explore who you are and to learn new things, or to fully figure out what's out there in the world when you live with your parents, especially Haitian parents, because it is hard to find a balance between what they have as expectation versus what you want your
Yeah.
adult life to be. So I mean, I definitely think it's doable, but I don't know that there's an age. And I definitely don't think that in the times that we live right now, 18 is a realistic time to expect someone to move out.
Hmm. Okay. So, in that same context, right? A lot of parents they
Yeah.
say, once you go to college, you know, you go get your degree. After that, you're on your own, right? You start building your life, and if you have to come back home, you got to pay the bills. Sometimes some kids when they come back home, they can't even go in their room. They have to pay rent to their parents, right? So, what do you guys think of that? Anyone can go. Go ahead.
I think
All right.
it's fair,
Hmm.
because I mean, you're working and
Mm-hmm.
you making, even if you're making, let's say like you're making above minimum wage, right? Let's
Yeah.
throw like $13 an hour. $13 an
Mm-hmm.
hour. And if you're making that much money and you're not paying any bills in the house and you have no real responsibility, let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest, you can help your parents, because even if you're making like your coming home profit 40K a year or 30K a year and
Mm-hmm.
you have no bills, that's a lot of money. So to
Mm.
have in your pocket, like pocket money. So it
Yeah.
really, really don't see why that's. I don't think it should be like an obligation, but I think that is a very polite thing to be like, hey, mom,
Mm.
dad, or whoever I'm living with. I know that I can help out, even if it's not like a lot of money, but maybe I'll
Mm-hmm.
help with paying the electric bill or whatever type of utility we need help with. But I do think it's a bit, well, personally, for my personal opinion, I just think it's a bit selfish to be there and not to help, even if it's not your parents, whoever it is.
Mm.
It's-
What about you,
So
Andy? What do you think?
if a parent, you
Mm-hmm.
know, allow your kids, and let's say they are working, making money, if a
Mm-hmm.
parent allowed them to stay home with no bills and no responsibility whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
they actually hurting them.
Mm.
And
right.
I we under we under I can say undervalue the power of responsibility.
Mm.
Let me
Right.
take a good example, with myself. I
Mm-hmm.
know some bad habit that I used to have that I had to change real quick the second I start having responsibility, because I
Yeah.
know, you know, if I don't take care of my money, then I'm gonna be in trouble, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be in trouble. So I have to I have to, you know, prioritize what's important.
Yeah.
So even though someone can stay at home even before they go to college, even before they are 18, I think the parent is their duty to start teaching them how to manage the money management, because money management is so important. uh if you are making money and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have bills to pay, then guess what? You don't value. There is a lot of things in life you're not gonna value. You're not gonna value your money. You're gonna spend it on the newest Jordan. You're gonna grab the newest iPhone. You're gonna think you're balling, but you're not really balling. It's because you don't have bills. And then you're not even saving money because you don't respect that money that you're making. So I believe that, well, um the parent, you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, I think it should be a requirement. I
Mm-hmm.
think it should be a requirement to have your kids pay that bill. If they are taking care of something else, let's say, they're doing their master, and they're probably
Yeah.
paying for their school. Now, that's understandable. But if you're just sitting home and going to work and then go out on the weekend and then eat, drink, like, life is perfect, nah, that's not good at all. That's now when those people end up moving out or get into a marriage, they're gonna carry a lot of those negative habits with them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think it's to require them to do so.
Okay. So, Jess,
I disagree. With the
really?
requirement part. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it depends. I think what's important is that there's a conversation between the parent and the child as to
Yeah.
what's the expectation of their stay. So, say
Mm.
your kid went to college and they had to come back home. Having a conversation about how long are you expecting to be home, and while you're here,
Mm.
what is it that you are trying to accomplish? Because a lot of us go back home with student loans and all
It's
kinds of
true.
debt from college, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if you want to help your child get ahead financially, I understand what you mean in terms of responsibility, Andy, but financially it doesn't help your child if you're comfortable in your home and you're not hurting for the rent. It helps them to have the conversation so that they're putting their money towards paying that debt, they're putting
Mm.
their money towards savings so that they can eventually leave the home. But if your
Interesting.
child doesn't have a plan, if they're just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, I don't really have a plan, I don't really know what I want to do, then that's a different, that then I think what you're saying, Indy, applies. But for me, I find that a lot of parents, especially in low-income homes, don't necessarily understand like money management or financial um, literacy in that sense to have this conversation with their children. And so it ends up being like a frustration on everybody involved because the parents feel like, okay, I'm paying for everything and you're just here living off of me. And the child is like, well, I'm still trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I think what's important here is like a conversation between the two parties so that they can come up with a realistic plan. And if financially that means that they have to pay rent, then that's fine. But a lot of time, I think it could be more helpful that they put their money elsewhere.
Okay. That's a very interesting point because I didn't even think about that because most of the time that's what happens, right? Kids go off to college, they come home, hey, mom and dad, I'm gonna have to move in. They're like, all right, well, now you need to start paying rent, right? But kids come back with debts, right? Like you said, they come back with school loans and all of these issues. So it's definitely something really important to think about. Now, let's talk about our culture. In the Haitian culture, a lot of people have complained that staying at home with the parents after, you've gone off to college and now you're back, they're saying that you have zero privacy, right? So what do you guys think about that? Is it just a Haitian thing, or have you guys heard other people talk about that? Start with you, Jess.
I don't think it's a Haitian thing. It is very like common in our culture, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's very it's an only it's a issue that only happens in Haitian household. But I do think that parents in our culture they feel entitled to our lives. Like they're overbearing, they're all up in your business, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it I think is they want to live through our experiences, and the other
Right.
part is the control. They want I mean, even though it comes off as controlling and hard, the thing is that they want you to succeed so bad that they get
Yeah.
really involved in your life, so they can give you advice, so they can make sure. I mean, for us women, a lot of the conversation, at least for me, the older I'm getting, is like, when are you gonna, get married? Where are those children? You know what I mean? So they want all these things to happen that they get over involved, in my opinion. That's why I never went back home because I enjoy my privacy. So I was like, no.
He said
Okay.
I ain't going back.
Nope.
What do you think, Becca?
Um, I mean, if I'm gonna speak from personal experience, I definitely would say that's a fact. Just because I've been in boarding school since I was 14, so it was boarding
Mm-hmm.
school, college, boarding school. I stayed on campus, and then right when I graduated from college, at like what I don't know, 22, 23, I go
Mm-hmm.
home, and it's like, oh, now you're a child in this home and you go by our rules, our things. And I'm like, dude, I've been independent since I was 14, so I don't really know what's
Mm-hmm.
happening here. So, I would say it's a Haitian parent thing, but I honestly think it's just a parent thing in general, and that's probably why even like in America, you see parents say, "Hey, when you're 18, you're an adult, move out the house." Why? Because
Yeah.
like the Haitian saying, two adults can't live under the house. There's always gonna be like a dominating person in the home.
Yep.
And when I
Yeah.
say by that, I don't mean like literally two different adults. I mean in the sense like two different ideas, two people that
Mm-hmm.
are that have the right to make decisions with completely different
Mm-hmm.
perspective. It's hard for them to live under the same roof.
That's true.
That's why they say when you're in a relationship you need to be with someone that's compatible, because it'll be really hard. It's like trying to make that life together. And so I think that's probably why American parents are like, hey, you're 18, time for you to get out, because there is a conflict between an 18-year-old or a young adult and an actual like parent because
Yeah.
of the dynamic of the relationship.
Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Nyaka and Jess, I think they said it right. So the truth is, even once you are older, and I believe one of you guys said it in the first question when you guys were introducing the topic. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you're older, right,
Yeah.
and you are trying to grow and go somewhere in life,
Mm-hmm.
and that if it's not under the same vision that they have for you, your parents have for you, they will it will be, hard because uh, here you live with them and you have your own opinion, you see life differently. Of course, you're a whole different human being than they are,
Mm-hmm.
and every time you see something differently as they do, and then you going to take that step forward, it's usually some pressure and some fight, and
Mm-hmm.
so that right here, that is an issue, and I believe that's not only in in the Haitian household. It might be worse in our culture because our culture, our parents are very, I can say, strong when it comes to putting their point of view on their kids. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that, it's more obvious in our culture, but I believe it's in every culture because the fact is, if I see this as your future and you see something else as your future, or if I think this is wrong and you don't, you're not you doing it, or
Mm-hmm.
if anything that you do that we don't agree with, we're gonna express ourselves to let you
Yeah.
know, and that can be very difficult.
So, with that in mind, y'all, do you guys think that the dynamic changes once you start making money, right? So, do you think your parents start accepting you more as an adult once you become more financially stable and you start, providing or sharing, I guess, taking up some of the bills? Do you think that your parents will, I guess, respect you more, or I guess accept the fact that you're an adult now?
I don't know what you call an adult, but for me, I think my parents are more like you're older, but
Mm.
I'm still your parent. And
Mm-hmm.
in some level, it's an advantage for me because I'm not even gonna lie. Like sometimes I need things done in my car. I just drive to my parents' house. I leave the
Mm-hmm.
keys with them. Because I'm like, if I'm your child, then there it goes.
Yeah.
But uh, I do think to a certain extent they do kind of respect more of your decision making because when
I don't have any sound for you, Milka. I don't know. Are you on mute? Okay. Um, let's go to you, Jess, and then we'll go back to Milka. Jess, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I
Okay.
can hear
We'll
you.
go to you, and then we'll go back to Milka.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I was asking, what was the question?
Do you think your parents will start respecting you or saying that, accepting the fact that you're an adult now, that if you start making money, you're financially stable, you're contributing?
Honestly, I don't think that Haitian parents their children in like as full-on adults. I think that to some extent you always be a child in their eyes, and
Yeah.
but I do think that there's respect when you start to um, when they start seeing you as your own person. Like you're not depending on them. You are making your own decision, but you're financially stable, whether you were living with them or not. I think that it
Mm-hmm.
comes with some sort of respect. I think they start to respect your boundaries more. I don't
Yeah.
know. I would say they full on see you as an adult, but yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Think. What do you think about that, Andy?
Well, so um, the dynamic will definitely change, and the
Mm-hmm.
way that you know when you're working and you're making your money, that's freedom right here. There is a level of freedom that comes. So let's say before when you were depending on them, and especially financially, right? So
Yeah.
whatever you need, you have to go ask your mom and your dad. Hey, I need some, some shoes, some underwear, or I have a project that I'm working on. They
Yeah.
are, 100, percent source of, you know, income. Whatever you need, you have to go talk to them. So now that you're making your own money,
Mm-hmm.
you're not coming to them anymore. So basically, you can whatever you wanna do and whatever looks good in your eyes, you can actually go ahead and do that thing. The reason why I said the dynamic changes is because we're funding you, we need
Mm-hmm.
an explanation. You know, why do you think? Why are you doing it? Why do you need that shoes? What happened to the shoes that I got you a couple weeks ago? And some parents, even though they're getting you the thing, but they're gonna make you feel bad. They will buy it, but you will feel bad. They will, you
Yeah.
know, man, you eating our money. Like kids are you so expensive. Man, yeah, go get it. They'll make you feel bad. Now that you're making your own money and
Mm-hmm.
you actually buying your own stuff, it's kind of not a smack in their face, but it's like, oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
that's nice. So they will respect you more, at certain level. And now you living with them, especially if you're making enough money to move out. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if that's true, but that's from my thinking. That's my opinion because I've never, I moved out from my parent at the age of 14. So I don't know if that's
Mm-hmm.
right. But for my opinion, I will believe that uh, once you start making enough money and you still live with them, they will appreciate it because they know at any moment you have enough money to work out and go get your own place. But you
Mm-hmm.
staying with them is more like, okay, she wanna stay with us. So, we respect that.
Okay.
That's what I have to say.
So sorry, Milka. You had some technical difficulties. I don't know if you remember what you were saying, so you can
What
continue.
was the question?
Do you think the parents consider you more of an adult when you start contributing and you have a steady job, steady income?
I don't think though it's necessarily of them considering you as an adult
Mm-hmm.
because especially with Haitian parents, they always see you as their child. But I
Mm-hmm.
think they will respect you more in the sense of maturity in your decision making. I think
Yeah.
they'll see you more in that sense. And I've seen the shift too because when I finish college and I'm working and I'm getting things together, I could see
Mm-hmm.
that the decisions that I make, it's more like, oh, it's not always like don't do this, don't do that. It's more like, oh, this is what I think it's better for you. What do you think? Like that's how the conversation started going. But they still give their opinions,
Yeah.
eh, but
Okay.
mine kind of input kind of mattered now.
Very interesting. So do you think that your input before didn't matter or it didn't matter
it's
as
not
much?
necessarily it's not necessarily that it didn't matter, but I think that they see you as immature, and I think the moment they see you have a degree and you have a career this and you're a professional, then they see you more of a mature person.
Interesting. Okay. So now another question. Do you guys think someone is less of an adult if they still live with their parents, if they choose to stay with their parents, right? Let's say they have the option to move out, but they decide to stay. They decide to stay home because we know society how it is, right? A woman meets a
Right.
guy. She's like, "Hey, so where do you live?" Say, "Hey, I stay with my parents. Down the street or whatever." They're like, "Oh, you stay with his parents." You know what I mean? So does it make someone less of an adult? What do you ladies think? And then I'll hear from Andy.
Can I
Were
say
you gonna speak
something?
about that? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I think Jess mentioned something earlier. She said that this society is not built for us to be successful. And I think anyone that that has a career and have the ability to move out, but they're at home and they're planning
Mm-hmm.
on moving out, but they're doing it in the like proper channels. I think that is the smartest thing anyone can do, honestly. Like,
That's
yes,
right.
you can move out and pay all your bills and,
Mm-hmm.
struggle your way through. But I think logistically, if you're at home and even if you're helping your parents, let's be honest, like maybe some people that's not their case, but most of the time your parents are not going to ask you for full rent. They're really not. They're probably going to ask you for a little bitty money, just enough, to kind of alleviate things for them, or maybe for you
Yeah.
to teach you how to be more responsible. But at the end of the day, if someone told me that they graduated from college, they're at their parents' house, they're saving money to buy a house, to me, that's like the smartest thing you can do, because you're planning your future. You're not just seeing today, because you're trying to, people who move out immediately, they're thinking, oh, independence, independence today. And it's like, okay, but what about tomorrow? Are you gonna be paying bills for the rest of your life, or you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be renting for the rest of your life, or do you have plans to buy a house? And I've known couples who have done that, where they moved out their parents' house
Mm-hmm.
and they get married and they're renting, and they're like, wait, I need to buy a house. And guess where they ended up? Back at mom and dad's house, so that they could save money to buy a house. So
That's a very interesting point, though. But what if they're single, right, and they just choose to stay home? Do you think that makes
right,
them? But they don't have any plans of moving out, though.
no plans of moving out.
Yeah, they just want to stay in the house.
That don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Oh man.
Like, what you mean you don't have plans to move out?
So basically, it's their parents' home, right? They went to college.
Okay.
Now they decided to come back. They're
Okay.
staying with their parents,
And they're
and
saving money, right?
yeah, they're making money, but they don't have
And
any
saving.
plans to move out because they're staying in the house.
Jess, you can take over that.
No. Okay, so I generally don't have an issue with people living with their families. Um, to on Milka's point, like they're saving money, planning to buy a house, or they're just planning out their future in general. There's no need for them to move. But they do have a plan to move.
Yeah.
I do have an issue with people who just stay stagnant. They are comfortable living at their parents' house rent free, or maybe they're living a little bit of money, they're giving a little bit of money here and there, but there's no plan to actually leave. I have a problem with that. So for me, that's a no. I feel like you should have a plan because your parents aren't going to be around forever. And if your plan is, I'm going to stay here until my parents are no longer alive so then I can just get this house, then that's also a problem. So I would say no. In general, I don't have an issue with it as long as there's a plan involved. But otherwise, I'm not with that.
So do you think it's wrong for them to, hey, I'm gonna be the one inheriting this house in a few years. May as well stay here.
Yeah, no, that's. Well, I mean, you can still work on bettering your life and
Right.
taking
And stay
steps
at
to
the
be
parents' home, right?
independent
Make an
adults
investment.
and not live at your parents' house waiting for them to die. That first of all, that is so wrong in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
So
have yet
it's
to
like,
go on.
so their plan is like they stay at their parents until they get married and move out. Is that what we're seeing here?
No, I mean, they're staying at the parents' home. Eventually it'll be their house.
No.
Eventually, when the parents pass.
Because I mean, okay, so let's put it this way. Some people, I saw a question online this week about it. Some people don't want to put their parents in nursing homes, right?
Okay.
My parents are getting older. They say, you know what? I want to put my parents in nursing home. I want to take care of my parents. Right? Parents are older. They move back in the home, right? After college, they move back in. Their plan is to stay in the home, inherit the home, and it'll be their house, their family home, right? What they call generational houses. So, is there
I feel
anything
like
wrong with
what
that?
you're saying now I feel like what you're saying now and what you were saying a moment ago are two different things. Like if they become the caretaker of their parents and the most logical thing to do is to be in the house to care for their parents, then
Yeah.
that to me is different than somebody who's like,
Mm.
well, they're gonna die anyways, I'm just gonna chill here and wait for the house. Like those are two different scenarios. So if
So,
someone is there because they're caring for their parents, then they're caring for their parents. I can't say, oh, you need to have your own place, pay for your parents' care at the same time. I feel like if the most realistic thing for them to do and the most comfortable thing for their parents is for them to stay together, then that's that, you know. Everyone's dealt in a different hand in life. So you deal with that as that comes. But I don't like people who just chilling. That doesn't work for me.
so Andy, what do you think about that?
Man, so first of all, I think staying at your parent
Mm-hmm.
with game plan, and hopefully you have some vision and goals. I think that's the smartest thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that save like thousands of money. I'm talking
Hmm.
about money, just by
Yeah.
staying at their parent. And I'm like,
Exactly.
man, I wanna save that much, but
Right.
but them bills though, them bills. So,
Right.
uh, I think it's the smartest thing you can do if you stay at your parent while you are, building your future and building yourself, and then hopefully working towards your goal. And I also will advise because I'm covering three things. Because, like just said, I think you kind of cover two different scenarios with that question. So I will hope everybody is watching. Uh, if you're a young person, or maybe not, and if you have your parents around, I will highly
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to work hard so you can be a blessing to your parent as well. Where, because our parents, they definitely do some sacrifices to put us where we are. And I think instead of, that's the second scenario where when you say they just stay there and hopefully they die one day so I can take over everything. Instead of doing that, why don't you go and work hard so you can bless your parents? So before they die,
Right.
you can make sure they're comfortable. They never worry about bills anymore. They never worry
Mm-hmm.
about medical bills because, hey, mom, dad, let me take care of that. Mom, dad, you can go to a vacation. Let's work hard so we can bless our parents that way. Um,
Yeah.
in the sense where they are the caretaker, you can stay home with your parents, but you you s- you taking care of everything. That is totally different. And
Mm-hmm.
even though you're
Mm-hmm.
not taking care of everything, but you are a useful being in the house. You're
Yeah.
not just sitting there and sucking the money or just taking advantage of the hard work that they have done by just staying there for free. But at the end of the day, you're just useless in the house, just living your life. Uh, and also you can be in there, taking charge of what, maybe their health, make sure they are doing okay, make sure things are in order. This is really important. I know some people will hire like a house manager to
Mm-hmm.
do such things, especially when they are getting older. But if you have the ability to bless your parent that way, I think that's a great thing. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I don't think there is anything wrong with that. If you decide to take care of your parent and take care of the house, but do not allow that to, uh, you know, block your vision. Make sure you also have a vision for your life personally.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you have a goal for your life because your parents are not gonna be there forever. You can take care of them while they are here, but make sure you're also moving forward. Yeah.
Very interesting point. So, there's another very interesting side of this whole conversation, right? So, some people have expressed their frustrations when it comes to dating. They said, well, I'm an adult, I live with my parents, and they feel like they have a say in my relationships and who I'm dating because I live in their house, right? You can't bring this guy around, or you can't bring this girl around. Right? I don't like this guy. I don't like this girl. He doesn't like me. He doesn't respect me. So I want to hear from you, ladies. Do you think that living with your parents, right, hinders your dating life? And how do you think it changes when you become independent and stay at your own space?
Uh, I think that it depends. It's really about your relationship with your parents. Because if you've always felt comfortable with dating your parents even before you were an adult, because I know there's teenagers who date and their parents know, their parents will take them to dates. So it's like, if that's the kind of relationship, if you've always felt that comfort, yeah, I think that's cool. But if you've never really had that type of relationship, then that's a whole different story. And I think that in a way, I don't think should. Ah, that's a hard question. Because, like you said, if your parents are putting too much input in it, then they're really influencing the decision you're making. And I think, in a way, it can be bad. It could be good because, parents have a lot of wisdom. But at the same time, it can be bad because
Yeah.
who they think you are is who they are, but you're not them. You're a whole different being than they are. And so sometimes they see things for you through themselves, and that can be really hard for you, and they start, putting pressure and influence and everything. And I think in a sense it could kind of put a toll on your relationship, your dating life. But like I said, I think it really just depends on your relationship with your parents from the very beginning.
Okay. What about you, Jess? What do you
I
think?
do. Yeah, I think that it definitely has, it brings layers of complication into dating. I think you have to learn to be, have boundaries, but also becoming very private about your dating life. Because I think that, especially in our culture, I don't think that our parents understand dating in the way we see it, modern day dating. I don't think that makes much sense to them, first of all, especially in the first stages of dating. So there's that part, but I also think that they get so involved sometimes that when you find yourself in a situation that may not be working for you, it's kind of hard to like. I don't know if that has ever happened to y'all, but have you ever been in a like relationship and your parents are so invested in it that you find yourself trapped in your own relationship because of the voices of the people around you, especially your parents, because they see this as such a great relationship or whatever their opinions is on it. Plus, add the added pressure of you getting older, therefore you need to be in an established relationship XYZ. So I do think it complicates things. That being said, I have to be honest, I don't really experience any of this. Like I said before, I left and never went back. So maybe my views on this are a little dated.
Okay. So,
And to add on to that, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
But to add on to what Jess was saying, I think even for us, just as young adults, I think there's a point of time where you have to distance yourself from the people around you. Just because in order for you to grow, you have to really know who you are, and most of who you are is who they told you who you were. And a lot of times, even in your relationship and just finding yourself, you require kind of a distance. And for some people,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
college is for them. But some people don't go to boarding school. They go to college and they stay at home, and it's like they've been with their parents for such a long time. They really haven't even figured out who they really are in this world, and even with relationships, because their parents are telling them, well, you need to be with a pastor, and you need to be with a doctor, this fella, and then and deep down in your heart you're like, dude, I
Yeah.
have like no chemistry with this guy, like. So yeah, I think there is a level of like, there is, like she was mentioning, like there is some, you have to be a bit more secretive just because you don't want too many people influencing and giving too much opinion that's kind of putting a toll on your decision making.
So, Andy, what do you think? Do you think that
Awesome.
added pressure can cause some sort of fallout with your parents?
Definitely, definitely. Uh, wherever where there is pressure, there must be some type of release. It's in physics. It's also in human as well. If pressure are being built up at one point, you know, things might get out of hand, and
Yeah.
you know. So in relationship, I think that um, especially in our culture, and Jess, she said it perfectly. Uh, they, the older generation, they don't really understand the way we did nowadays, and especially when it comes to the early stage, when you trying to see what she's about. Our The older generation, they don't know about all that. You know, Wha- what does she do for a living? Is she beautiful? Is she like Jesus? Then what are you really? What do you mean you
What
trying to
else do you
click?
need?
You know, they don't understand about Oh, we don't click. Like what's clicking? What are
What's
you talking
click?
about? Yeah, they do not process it. So I guess we we must also understand that that's how they are, so they will never understand things
That's true.
at certain level. So with that being said, uh, in those early stage, let's keep them out. Let's keep them out, and let's say you live with your parents, so you don't have a choice. They see you, leaving, or maybe she's coming in, and they asking question, or the first time she showed up to your place, they already act like she's your fiance. But
Right.
in that case, I guess, uh, let me put emphasis on try. We can try to talk to them, because there is no guarantee that they will understand. We can try
True.
to explain to them what's going on, and we are trying to get to know each other, and it just build that communication between them, because at the end of the day, I believe communication is very important, especially
Mhm.
between the older and the newer generation.
Yeah.
And there is
Mhm.
such a big gap, because we just don't have patience to try to understand each other and try to listen to each other, because they don't
Mhm.
have to be right all the time, and we don't have to be right all the time. Make sure that we have that gray area. Just give me my freedom. You don't have to understand what I'm doing. You don't have to understand why we're gonna eat out when cooked. Why don't we stay home and eat? You don't have to understand,
Right.
but
And
please,
that's why you need to move
just give me
out.
that room, right? Just give me that room to do what I'm doing. And when I'm ready for us to move to that level that you're trying to bring us, I will come to you and tell you. I think that's something we can try. Just do a better job at communicating with them,
Yeah.
but do not get frustrated. Do not
Mm.
do not get frustrated. Do not uh, don't think that they doing all that because they just don't like you, but because the reality is they do love you, but they trying to bring the 80s to 2020, or they trying to bring the 50s to 2020, and
Mm.
that's the issue. But they still love
But
Mm.
again, some parents can be very controlling, right? They want to tell you what to do. They want to tell you who to date and all of those things, right? And they're very vocal about it. They're very upfront about it, right? They can even make some slick comments in front of the person to show that, that they don't really appreciate that person. So there's all of that to take into consideration. But thank you guys. Thank you guys very much. We're gonna take a quick break. Oh, you want to add something, Indy?
Yeah, to what you just said right here. You know, with the slick comment and all, I think even though that's everybody, we must be, I can say, whatever decision we take in life. Let's say we're dating somebody or anything like that. I believe that receiving input from other people is important. For example, from your parents or maybe your best friend and people who are close to you. But at the same time, uh, with prayer, make sure whatever to direction you're going with that person. Let's say if your parent they don't like it, they doing sleep comment and everything like that. Uh, Make sure you can let them know that they are crossing that line that they're not supposed to cross, and be clear with them. They will be upset. I'm pretty sure they will be upset because they're gonna be like, "So you just met her now? You're trying to disrespect us?" It's not being disrespectful. It's being, I can say, an adult. Now I'm making certain decision, even though you don't agree right now. I don't want you to be disrespecting anybody. If you don't like something, you can come to me in a calmer way, in a more respectful way to express yourself. You don't have to be disrespecting her in front of, and saying silly thing in front of her. We don't work that way. And I think that's a whole different conversation. It's basically how to stand up to your parents and express yourself while respecting them as well. Sorry, Teddy, I cut you off.
No problem. But thank you, Indy. So I want to remind the audience that we're gonna take a break. When we come back, you guys will be able to ask questions. You can call in. The number will be on the screen. You can call in with your questions. You can call in if you have an opinion. If you want to share your opinion on this topic, you can do that as well. We'll also be pulling questions from YouTube and Facebook. So if you have questions, now is the time to ask those questions. Don't go anywhere. Continue sharing this video. We'll be right back. welcome back. Like we said earlier, you guys can now call in or you can call in with your questions. You can call in with just share your opinion, right? Give us your point of view, share experiences regarding this topic. And we'll also be pulling questions from YouTube and Facebook for our panelists. So, my dear panelists, I have a question for you guys. Well, someone on YouTube asked a question. I'll read it for you guys. First question says, so what advice do you tell someone that doesn't necessarily live with their parents, but lives with other people, such as church members or a family friend, and they want to move out? Keep in mind their finances fluctuates. What should they do? What do you guys think? Andy,
Well,
okay.
let me,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
let me
Andy.
go first.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said earlier, well, that probably doesn't have. Yeah, I think that those things kind of work with each other. They relate to each other. So, with work, you get freedom. When you work, you have your
Mm-hmm.
own money, you have freedom. So it's the same way when you have your own place, there is a lot of freedom that comes into it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it can be very difficult living with, other people, in a roommate situation because, of course, the person, their decision will affect your life, in one way or another. And if the person is not is stopping you from growing or
Mm.
is making your life difficult, if
Yeah.
that person is not, uh, that whole living situation is affecting you either financially or mentally, emotionally, or they basically stopping you from moving forward in life,
Mm-hmm.
then I think it's really important. You can
Yeah.
you can look for maybe someone else like a family member that
Mm-hmm.
is more understanding, that is I can say that is more encouraging in certain way. Uh to move out to them where your finance doesn't, get affected that bad.
Mm.
But otherwise, I think, you know, if the living situation is negative,
Mm-hmm.
I do what you gotta do to get out.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, um, being in a negative environment will affect you like a lot. As it's been said so many times that the power of association is very important. If you
Mm.
associate yourself in with people who are very negative, who are holding you back, then I guarantee you, um, you're not gonna go anywhere in life. So it's
Mm.
important that you are in a positive environment. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So,
Jess and Milka. Yeah, go ahead, Milka.
so my question is, what do we
Mm-hmm.
consider a negative environment? And
Mm.
what's the reason why you wanting to move out? Because the thing
Yeah.
is, like a lot of us, we look into the situation and we're like, oh, I want to move out because this isn't my home. There's all these
Mm-hmm.
rules, and these people don't abide to my rule. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, it's not really a negative situation. For
Mm.
instance, if I don't know, throwing out a random scenario, someone say like you gotta wash your hands before you open the fridge, and you're getting mad because every time you open the fridge you don't wash your hands, and they tell you, hey, remember to wash your hands, and you're like, I need to get out of here. Well, I mean,
Mm.
I don't think that's a very mature reason to wanting to move out. But
Yeah.
I is it really an ego thing that makes you want to move out? Because like the person said, their finance is fluctuating. So why is your finance fluctuating? Why are we not focusing more on getting financially stable before we're thinking about
Mm-hmm.
even picking up a lot of bills? Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, when, let's say for instance, you get a roommate, you and your roommate are going to be two different people. Even if you guys see eye to eye on a lot of things, there's still going to be things you're going to bump heads with. When you get married, it's going to be the same situation. You're going to have to accommodate your life with whoever you're living with. So whether it's a family friend or it's your parents or whoever it is, you're still gonna have to accommodate who you are and your rules with their rules, you know? So I'm really hoping the reason why this person is trying to move out is not an ego reason, but more for, like, let's say they're in an abusive situation, whether it's physical or mental or even financial abuse, you know? So those would be like legitimate reasons why you should be moving out. But for someone who is financially unstable, I don't see why we're trying to rush out and focus. We're putting our focus in the wrong place, but that's how I perceive it.
Okay. So, Jess, what do you think about that? So the question was, what do you tell someone that doesn't necessarily live with their parents, but they live with other people, like either church member or family friend, and they want to move out, but keeping in mind that their finances fluctuates?
I mean, I would not encourage anybody to move out if they're not financially ready to do so, you know? Because I feel like you setting yourself up for failure. And so I would encourage them to look into their surrounding, maybe there's resources. If they are in a situation where, like Milka was saying, where the best thing for them to do is to move out in terms of, like, abuse, or if it's not a safe space for them to be in, if it's a toxic environment, then yeah, obviously, find the resources around you. Maybe there are other people who can help support you if something were to come to go wrong. But if it is something that you can work out, by having conversation, by communicating better with the people that you live with, then I would encourage them to do that, in the meantime, and then prepare themselves to move out. Because moving out and knowing fully that your your finances may fall through, then you're putting yourself, in a not in a great position, in my opinion.
Okay, okay. Very good, very good. So someone else has asked another question. They said, do you guys think that parents demanding respect and not reciprocating it plays a big role in them enabling us to depending on them? I think Siri thinks I'm talking. What do you guys think about that?
Can you say that again?
Okay, let me read it again. They said, do you guys think that, sorry, Siri keeps thinking. So the person asked, do you guys think that parents demanding respect and not reciprocating it plays a big role in them enabling us to depend on them?
My thing is, it depends on what you're calling respect, you know, because for instance, like Indy mentioned earlier, with us being young adults living in America and them being older adults being raised in Haiti, there is a huge gap in our culture. And the thing is, for instance, respect to Haitians, I don't know if it's the same thing for you guys, but it's like you don't look at people in the eyes, you know, adults. When they're talking to you and they're saying something really serious, you don't look in the eye. But here in America, if you don't look at them in the eye, it's a sign of disrespect. So in the sense as in demanding respect in these little, I guess, gestures and stuff, I think those are, sorry, I totally choked. I think those are things that just need to be talked about. But in general, when we're talking about like respect, like what we know as respect you as a human being, and you respect me as a human being, I think that parents really do need to respect. Sorry guys, I think that parents really do need to respect their children, and if your parents are not respecting you, then that's abuse. That's mental abuse, and that's a whole different conversation. It's a whole different topic.
Yeah. So I guess what the person is asking is us being required to respect our parents and them not returning that same respect makes us dependent on them. Is that? I think that's what I'm
Yeah.
understanding.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
So, okay, first of all, I believe that respect shouldn't be demanded. Like, respect as whoever you are, child or young adult, you must respect everybody wherever you go, regardless
Right.
if they don't respect you back. You know, you just treat people better. You know, uh, and now if I'm trying to understand the question, is basically uh, like a master slave scenario. That's kind of the image I'm getting in my head.
Right.
How the slave respect the master, and the master don't respect the
Right.
slave back, and the slave have to depend on you know, on the master. And forgive me if that's not what you are asking, but this is the image that you know,
Right.
you know, that comes to mind. Uh, I'm gonna be honest with you. Uh, this is in relationship, this is in parenting, and it's all over the place in our society. For me to be a software engineer, I had to go to school to learn that skill. And I'm pretty sure so our panelists, very intelligent young ladies, I'm pretty sure you guys had to go to some type of education system to learn that skill, right? And for a doctor to be a doctor, they have to go to medical school to learn that skill. But majority, well, I'm gonna say about 98% of people, they think they can learn being the parenting skill automatically without any counsel or even us. We think we can just learn how to be a great boyfriend or girlfriend or a good wife or husband without doing any effort to learn the I can see the art of loving somebody. So in parenting, sometimes there are abuses. The parent can abuse their kids without even knowing it because they just don't know better. A parent should always, as Milka said, the parent should always respect their kids. I
Yeah.
don't care how old they are, and we see that in our culture sometimes. A Haitian parent, they'll be like, you know, don't do this. But why? Oh, are you talking back? Because I say so. You don't need to know why. Just don't do it. The second they say something, but I believe it shouldn't be that way. You're raising young women and young men. They require an explanation so they know the reason why they're not doing things.
Yeah.
And you see that such type of relationship a lot everywhere you go, where your parents are, instead of helping you expand your perspective of life so you can have a better understanding of life in general, they hide a lot of things from you. Sex is not something negative, but doing it when you're not ready it can be something negative. They just say, don't do sex. Boom. And you're like, okay, but I don't know why. And us, as we are curious being, we are very curious. We're gonna find out on our own. Let's say partying. They know there might be some negative thing in partying, but you're
Yeah.
just going to a little birthday party because they don't know the person. Like, don't do it. Done. I don't owe you any explication. My name is well, excuse me if you don't speak Creole, say Gamun Kino, meaning,
Yep.
I'm an adult, so whatever I say goes. And
My name
such
is adult.
dynamic, right? Such dynamic is Now I get it. I'm kind of such dynamic is very abusive in relationship. And a lot
Yeah.
of our young adult or kids in general, we are victim of abusive relationship because our parents don't know better, because
Yeah.
of lack of education, because of lack of knowledge. If this is what you're asking about, I will say seek professional help because
Mm,
you've been in such a negative environment. You also
mm,
are the fruit of that environment. You carrying those negative vibes with you, but there is that thing called
mm-hmm.
blind spot, and it's so
Yep.
dangerous. You don't see it. You don't the same way your parents don't, are not aware of their abusive act. You're not aware of
Mm-hmm.
that in your life as well. So
Mm-hmm.
seek
Mm-hmm.
professional help. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Very good
And to
point.
add
Very
on
good.
to what Indy is saying,
Hmm.
for some reason the Haitian culture don't believe in therapy. They don't believe in
Mm.
counseling.
Yeah.
Mm,
And
Nope.
mm,
I'm like,
We they
that we
can
need to talk about that because we
yeah.
need
we
counseling, you know?
yeah.
Just I'm just
Yep.
throwing that out there.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, to answer the question that was asked, for me it's the opposite. When I feel like I'm not getting respect, then it drives me to become independent. It drives me to not be around that person. And that goes for my parents. Like if I'm in a situation where my parents they require me to respect them, so I do, and I'm not getting that back from them. As an adult, I don't need to stick around and take on that abuse. So
Right,
to me, that would push me in the opposite direction, not to
Yeah.
stay with them.
Okay.
right.
Okay. Very good. Because I think so the person they added something else. They said we're so dependent on them that it takes us a while to be independent. Right. So we depend on our parents so much that yeah. Go ahead, Mika.
And that's why they need to make you pay bills. But that's exactly what Indy was mentioning earlier. When you live in your parents' house, they need to
Yeah.
teach you responsibilities, and don't get me wrong, my parents tried as much as they could, but being coming into a different society, there were things I had to learn on my own. And I was just, a lot of times I was like, hey, man, I wish I had known this earlier. I wish I'd known this before I went to college. I wish
Yeah.
I'd known this before I had moved out. And it's like, you're dependent on them because you're not taking up responsibilities. And I don't think you should take everything all at once, because when you move out into your own place, you're literally picking up everything at once. But when you're in your parents' house, maybe today you're going to start by paying a room, then you'll add utilities, and you'll learn to budget and still pay your school loans and still try to pay off credit, like credit card debts and everything. Yet you're still trying to save money and not learn to like lavish yourself all the
Yeah.
time. But then when you're in your parents' house and you're getting, let's say you're making like profited 30-40K a year and it's all coming to you, and you're not learning how to be responsible, that money can disappear. Like you'll keep seeing checks and your bank account is still empty. Like someone said, a lot of people look good, but a lot of people are broke. Okay, because a lot of people don't know
Fact,
how to manage money. And I think that really
fact.
needs to start from home. And I always admire when you hear kids who would say like their parents opened up a saving account for them when they were like 2 years old. So those are really like important things, teaching kids
Yeah.
while they're in your house how to manage their credit card lines, debts, and even fixing their credits. Those are really important things that people should know before they move out. That way they don't have to start from square one, but maybe they have a head start and start from square 10, and now I can get to square 20 faster instead of spending 20 years to get to step 20.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I will also add that I think that part of independence, aside from the financial piece of it, there's that emotional and mental piece of it as well. That you, depending on how you were brought up, you depend on your parents a lot for, emotional support and um, And that can end up taking a toll as you grow older, and you can end up feeling like you're not prepared to leave because of how sheltered, or like how I don't know how to really explain this, but you feel like you need their permission to leave, or you feel like, you will be lost without them. So part of it is that attachment, as well, beyond
Yeah.
financial, obviously.
Right.
Okay. Very good point. So I guess we have one last question, guys, before we end tonight. And I guess that question is coming from me, since I don't see any. I don't see any other questions. Um, so how do I say that? What advice would you guys have for young adults living with their parents, looking to make that transition? What's the best way for them to approach it without burning any bridges? I'll start with you, Andy, and then I'll hear from the ladies.
First of all, I will highly advise you to sit down and do not make the decision out of, comparing yourself to other people, or just make a strictly emotional, I can say, decision where you don't really think about it. First of all, before you even approach your parent to move out, make sure it's the right move. Look at the positive, the negative, the financial aspect of it, and how this is you working towards your goal, how that move can affect you, and how it's gonna make you a better person, how it's gonna bring you closer to your goal. Make sure you analyze all those fine little pieces, but do not decide to move because okay, I'm 18 and it's time for me to move, or do not decide to move because it's strictly uh because oh, my friend Andrea is working at Walmart and she got her own place, and here I am, I'm making more, I can get my own place too. Don't look at life that way. Each person is on their own journey, so make sure you're doing it for the right reason. And now, number two, now when you are approaching your parent to uh, let them know, so uh, make sure that when you're walking towards your goal, if that's the right decision for you, they probably gonna miss you. They probably not happy about it, but help them understand that working toward making yourself a better human being or working towards your goal. Because at the end of the time, at the end of the day, if your parents, you know, don't agree with something, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Make sure that you're doing the right this, you're taking the right step. Look, ask for advice. Make sure you have someone you can get advice from someone who has done it, and someone who's you know basically was looking for you, who was make sure that you get to your goal. Someone I can see you look up to.
Yeah.
Ask for advice, talk to them, and make sure that you are ready. And maybe you can think the environment that you live in, it's a bad environment, but that's you acting up in your mind. And please don't forget that ourselves, we can be our greatest enemy. So never allow your emotion to have the final say so. Make sure you think, you pray, and you ask for advice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Um, we'll go to you, Milka, next.
I think that anyone who's planning on moving out their parents' house, it's a big step in life, but it's definitely something that is going to like help you grow as a person. So before you move out, I think the first thing you need to think about is reflect on your mental state. Are you able to are you going to be able to mentally handle yourself independently? You know, and also what conditions are you going to move into? Are you going to live alone? You know, could you live alone? Have you ever lived alone? Do you know what it's like to live alone? Are you going to have a roommate? Do you know what it's like to move in with a roommate? Do you know the roommate you're going to move into? How are you guys going to deal with the finance? You know, you really have to know, like, where am I going to live? You know, am I going to live in a good neighborhood? Am I going to live in a more lower income neighborhood? Like, is it a safe place for me to move into? Like, those things are really important things for you to consider. And
right.
on top of that, you also have to think about your finance. You know, you always make sure you have sustainable finance. Like, don't try to move out just to move out and you're out here struggling, or all your bills is going into your rent, because you're gonna be stuck in a cycle. And it's a very frustrating and it's an ugly cycle. It's hard to get out of when all the money that's coming in is going straight into bills. Believe me, it's very frustrating. You know, and you also have to consider moving out costs a lot of money, and moving in costs a lot of money. So you moving your things out of your parents is going to cost you money, and you moving into the apartment is going to cost you a lot of money. And then on top of that, you have to talk to a lot of people about financial advice. You know, I've always hear make sure you have 6 months rent before you rent a place, because if something happened, you know that for 6 months you can pay your rent. Those are very important things. You know, there's the little things that you wouldn't think are important, but then when you're on your own, you'll see. Like, for instance, when I lived with my parents, we all cook. I cook, my mom cook, my dad cook. When I lived alone, I'm like, man, I gotta cook every day. Let's start DoorDashing, you know, and then there goes my money for the DoorDash. So those things are things that, you know, you have to consider. Would you be able to handle that? You know, and like I mentioned earlier, like even with my car, I didn't realize that I was very dependent on my dad with my car, and I'm not gonna lie, I still am. Like, I drop that car off at his car whenever it needs, at his house whenever it needs to be fixed, but. You know, like, you have to consider if you're really able to just, I guess, basically prepare yourself for it. I'm not saying don't do it. It's if you need to do it, you got to do it, but you have to prepare yourself so that when you're in it, you don't fall into this depression, this, you know, feeling kind of hopeless, feeling like, man, I made such a big mistake because I can't really handle myself, you know? So if you have the ability to plan it. Don't just, like Andy mentioned, don't just jump out of emotions and just do it out of nowhere. And also, my last advice is use this as an opportunity to grow, you know, to grow as an adult, and also to grow your relationship with your parents.
Very important, very important. And Jess, we'll hear from you.
Yeah, so for me, I will say the first thing I will say is you can do it. You definitely can. There's all the tools, resources. You can learn to manage living outside of your parents' home. I live alone, so I'm a big advocate for like living by yourself. I find that you learn a lot about yourself, a lot about the world. You get to experience things, in my opinion, that you wouldn't typically do when you always around the people that you're comfortable with. That's my first thing. My second thing is I feel like Andy and Milka really focused on the financial aspects of it. So I will add that I think make a plan of what's realistic for you to fully move out, so that you can move out sustainably and not having to run back or not setting yourself up for failure. Make a plan as to what you want, and really having conversation with your parents about it. I think that ultimately our parents, they want the best for us, most of them anyways. They want the best for us, and a lot of their worry come from them, I think, not thinking that we're ready or prepared. So I think that if you take the time to make a plan and you have a conversation about your plan, they may not fully agree, but they will, I think, understand better, and they will feel at ease knowing that you have a plan and that you're not just moving out for the sake of moving out. I think, and then seek mental health if you need it. I think that's important. I feel like we touched on this a little briefly, but I think especially in our community, that's something that we need to do as well.
Very
That's it.
important. Well, thank you guys. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. Once again, you were watching Drop Mic. Tonight's episode was about when is the right time to move out. And there you guys have it, right? We received some great advice from our panelists. They shared their opinions. You guys asked your questions. Your questions were answered. Last episode, we mentioned a giveaway. Well, you guys shared the videos, but you guys didn't tag your friends. So we're going to extend it for another week. So if you're watching, follow DroppedMic on Instagram at the DroppedMic Show. And you can share any of our videos, tag 3 of your friends, and yeah, you'll enter for a chance to win $100. So the show is ending. Like we said last time, we're down to 2 more episodes. The last 2 episodes, the next one will be about finance, and then the very, very last episode will be a very interesting one that I won't be sharing right now. But definitely tune back in Friday for another interesting episode and some amazing panelists discussing finances for millennials, Gen Zs, right, and everybody. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Have a great night. See you guys Friday.